On the KHJ Sports Scoreboard, the U.S. Olympic basketball team has won its third straight game at Tokyo with a 60-45 victory over Peru. The Cards beat the Yankees 5-2 in 10 frames to take a 3-2 lead in the series. Game 6 is scheduled for St. Louis Wednesday, with Jim Bouton pitching for New York and Curt Simmons for the Cards. In an NFL League game, the Baltimore Colts beat the St. Louis Cards 47-27, and the New York Rangers open the National Hockey League season tonight with a 6-2 triumph over the Boston Bruins in the only game scheduled. From the KHJ Weather Center, look for an overnight low downtown of 58, out in the valley 50-60, high Tuesday near 75 at Civic Center, 84-88 for the valley. The world through the eyes of John Gentry is like nothing you've ever seen before. Hear Gentry with an Eye weekday afternoons following the 3:30 news. For your information, this is Marv Howard. Bulletins are heard immediately on KHJ. Next scheduled news in 25 minutes on the information station for Los Angeles, KHJ Radio 93.
Silly thought. Doctor speaking to patient. Now, my good man, just come over here. I'd like to examine your heart, liver, and kidneys, and you have a choice of 2 vegetables. Number 2, we have 5 together. Michael Jackson, KHJ, Hollywood 1, 9353. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
Glad you're back.
Thank you, so am I, ma'am.
I hope to be kind enough to let me correct 2 comments that were made about the Full and Lewis broadcast tonight. It happened. I listened very attentively.
Good.
Mr. Lewis did not say the Los Angeles papers did not publish about Senator Goldwater. He said that he'd had letters from all over the country, and he named in particular the Louisville Courier-Journal that hadn't done so. I think it's only fair to our good papers here to not have them blamed for it.
I agree with you there.
Don't you think we have good papers?
I think they're getting better and better.
I can hardly hear you. Maybe
somebody-
I'm a little deaf.
Somebody's picked up an extension at your house, I think, ma'am.
No.
But it sounds like it. But thank you very much for your comment, and I appreciate it.
And could I make one more?
I hope you will.
About the Social Security.
Yes.
The point is that people now, I think, can only make $1,200 a year.
Right.
And it has been increased to $1,800. Or Senator Goldwater would do that, but he would not change it so they wouldn't get it. That isn't quite fair.
I would agree with you. If that was the intention, it wouldn't be quite fair.
And another thing, it was mentioned that Mr. Lewis only gave one side of the question, and the Sherman Adams case was mentioned. And Mr. Lewis was one of the very first men to bring that to public notice, and he gave several broadcasts on it some years ago because I heard them.
Uh-huh.
Was that you on the program last night, The Living Doll?
No, I wasn't on last night. No, I was filming one all week. It'll be on in a few weeks from now.
Oh, will you tell us so we can see it?
You bet your life.
Pardon?
They couldn't stop old Big Mouth me from telling you if I tried.
All right, thank you.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Hollywood 1, 9353, Michael Jackson, KHJ. It wasn't that much different in my hours either, working, around the corner at Desilu, because normally I get to bed about 2 a.m. I got up at 4:30 a.m. for that business. But it's funny, I saw sunrises. Something else I learned. Not having had a chance to see Captain Kangaroo before because of the hours I work, he looks so much like Pierre Salinger, it's funny. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been in this country for a few years now, and I belong to a club. I'm Hungarian.
Yes.
And there are about 300 Hungarian girls in this club. Now, we all have one problem in common, and we thought we might ask you about this.
What's that?
As soon as an American boy or an American man meets us, and he finds out we are Hungarian, they say, "Oh, hello, Jaja,"
May I point out that there are people of higher standing socially than the Gabors in Hungary?
Yes.
More Buddha than Pest.
Well, they are well known, but I don't think in the same way that they are known over here. Well, anyhow, this is my question.
Madam, that was very unsubtle, but oh, so true.
Well, they were known in our mother's time, We are all girls between 18 and 25. Now, the question is, why do people right away think of an old lady like that? I mean, what is the American idea behind
Madam, if
that?
I have to think of an old lady, I'd rather think of one like that.
Oh, I see.
I don't think that's very generous of you.
Well, this is just a little plea we would like to say through your radio here, because so many people hear it.
However, may I point out to you that if all old Hungarian ladies, as you call them, look like Jaja, we would have helped them during their revolt.
Oh, really?
Oh, really, madam?
Well, I wish you had come over there at that time.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
So do I. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night. Hollywood 1-9353, Michael Jackson, KHJ. Do you ever wonder what exactly has been happening during the past 25 years in Los Angeles, or 15 years ago, 10 years ago to the day? Tune in to Red McIlvaine every weekday morning at 10 minutes to 9 for the lowdown on KHJ Radio. That's the worst possible reason I can think of for listening to Red McIlvaine. Really, there are umpteen really good ones. Aside from the almanac, here's a man who's never dated. I mean, never dated. He's fantastic.
Hey, those shingles you're putting on really good? Good. They're Jones Manville asbestos shingles. Fireproof, rot-proof, won't warp or curl. Practically indestructible. Last longer than a house. How long? I can't hear you. Cut off that motor. I said, how long will those Jones Manville asbestos shingles last? A lot longer than your helicopter.
In the KHJ listening area, you'll find John Mansville quality products at Hubert Lumber Company, 691 Ventura Boulevard in Ventura, Parker Building Supply, 2221 Fair Park Avenue in Eagle Rock, and Fleming and Hightower Lumber Company, 3250 San Fernando Road in Los Angeles. Michael Jackson, KHJ. Hello.
Hello there.
Hello there, sir.
Say, I'd like to make a couple observations regarding the talk we've heard about the Rumford law.
All right, sir.
In other words, I was listening to the show earlier on the way in, and I got the impression that putting yes on 14 would be a kind of a ridiculous answer to a problem. I feel that the law originally, the Rumford law, was passed in haste and under quite extraordinary conditions in the beginning. And 1 million people or so signed tickets, affidavits, to try to get a chance to vote at this. Now, when some irresponsible persons created a condition, I don't feel that it's fair to put the blame on those who wish to correct it, as they are all to blame for doing it in maybe not the best way of doing it. Have you any comment on that?
I'm not
Pardon?
fully sure that I understand you. You
Well,
are
in other
saying to
words-
me... Go on, yes.
The thing was passed in the legislature in haste, just at the very end, and people were laying in the aisles, and it was quite, it wasn't nice, in other words.
But it was passed.
It was passed, and 1 million voters signed to have this put up for election, to vote on. Now, true, I grant you that the way we're having to vote yes on it is not quite the way many people would want it. But you must remember the legislature is the one that created the condition in the beginning. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Well, and another thing, too, which I have in criticism of the thing, my buddy, he has...
But one thing to consider, sir, if I may interject for 1 second.
Yeah?
The forthcoming letters, the Joe meeting in Sacramento, could alter, as it did construct in the first place, could very well alter the Rumford Fair housing law.
Yeah, but it wasn't meant that way. In other words, the point is, the whole bill is such. For instance, my buddy has 3 units on 2 lots side by side, which he bought together as 6 units.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he has no guidelines as to whom he has to rent to at all. I have 6 units on 1 lot, and I am concerned.
In other words, it seems
Now, I don't believe
strange
that
to be
is
able
fair.
to have a demarcation line between that which comes under the regulation and which does not.
Well, is that fair?
It does seem rather strange,
Well,
but
it is, and I mean, that is what's wrong with the whole law. It is not a fair law. Any citizen, I believe, believes in
it
a
is a
fair
law.
law.
But it is a law. Then why couldn't it be so that the next session of the legislature changed this law?
Because the legislature never intended it to be fair. That's why it was passed so hastily.
The
in
legislature
the beginning.
never intended it to be fair. Why,
No,
sir?
sir, it was to be the special privilege law.
No,
And
sir.
that is why there's such a tremendous scare from the proponents that want a no vote. The governor doesn't even feel we should have a right to vote because it wasn't meant to be fair. Now, that is my objection to it.
That is your opinion toward it, sir.
Isn't
Your
it quite-
objection too, but I don't see it that way at all.
It isn't quite true.
That's the way you see it. I don't see it that way. But I thank you very much for your opinion.
Okay.
Good night, sir. Hollywood 1-9353. Since it is in the form of an initiative constitutional amendment, if it is successful, it could be modified only by another direct vote of the people at some future time. A court decision declaring it inconsistent with the provisions of the United States Constitution would be another way. or by federal legislation superseding it. Hollywood 1, 9353, Michael Jackson, KHJ, 15 minutes after 8. Hello?
I'd like to know where I could write to get some information on the pros and cons of Proposition 15, 16, and 17.
Good. I can answer that very simply by saying best thing to do is to phone information and ask for the phone number for the League of Women Voters of California. League of Women Voters of California. And they have a capsule of pros and cons. They are bipartisan or non-partisan. And their aim is not to woo you one way or the other, but just to help us get informed. The League of Women Voters of California. I know the San Francisco address is 126 Post Street, but I think you can get it much more simply by looking up the phone number in the phone book or calling information.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Hollywood 1, 9353, Michael Jackson, KHJ. Hello.
I thought you'd forgotten about me.
How could I forget you, ma'am?
Well,
Just
I
the
don't
two of
know.
us left together.
You're the hardest person in the world to get.
You've got me, and I'm glad.
Oh, you got me and I got you.
Uh-huh.
Good. I just thought you'd like to tell women that they should be very careful on the streets today.
Women, be very careful on the streets today.
Yeah, because they can be held up so easily.
I see. I
Even
understand.
before dark.
Did it happen to you?
Yes,
How many years ago?
2 weeks ago.
I see. What happened?
Well, you snatched the purse.
I did not.
No, you didn't. But they can.
Oh, I thought you said I snatched your purse.
No.
No, I missed
No,
it.
no.
I tried. What happened to you?
Well, it shouldn't happen to anyone.
No, I say, what happened to you?
Well, they snatched my purse. They just took my purse and walked away with it. Ran away.
Uh-huh.
Ran away with it.
Well, I hope you didn't try and run after them or get it back, because any person that would take your purse might well do other irrational things.
Well, what would you do?
I'd shout.
I did. I said, give me back my bag.
I mean, anybody who took my purse, I'd slap them.
I said, give me
Yes.
back my bag.
And they said, no.
Isn't that awful?
Uh-huh.
The police thought it was, too.
Yes, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you're well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for making that suggestion.
Well, just tell them to be careful, that's all.
Okay, women, be careful, that's all.
Women, be careful.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good night. Hollywood 1, 9353. Men, be careful, there are women hold-up men. Women hold up women, I suppose. Like man-eating sharks. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am, what's on your mind?
Oh, I want to know, I want you to explain,
I did ask you to turn off your radio. I asked you several times. Please do, sir.
I want you to explain, religion to me. What is religion to you?
Belief in God.
Well, what is God?
What is God?
Yes.
Well, a supreme being.
I know it's a supreme being, but,
Uh-huh.
I mean, to you, what is it?
Oh, it's a way of describing all the things I cannot describe. It's a way of understanding all the things that are way beyond my ken, my knowledge. And, for example, if you were to say to me, well, science does that, I'd say there are many things that science can't discover for me. And the more that science unravels, the more I'm encouraged in my devotion to a supreme being, one which is responsible for these things that we mere mortals, mere scientists, cannot reproduce. We can only study. We can't make them of our own minds. It's all that I find completely unfathomable. It's the very fact that this is a universe without end. I have a human brain. I have a finite brain. To me, a piece of string must have a beginning and must have an end. But the universe has no beginning and has no end. Time has no beginning and has no end. I cannot comprehend this because I am only a human being. These things I've put to God.
Well, don't you feel that God is within you?
Against me?
Within you?
Within me? Oh, I salute the divinity in fellow man. I think God is within each one of us, yes.
Yes. Well, since I came into reality, I'm halfway in.
You're halfway in reality.
Yes, and
other
I
words,
see
you're-
religion is not what the old people what the people are teaching today.
But then the world isn't what the world used to be today.
It's all false.
No, it's not. It depends on how you interpret it, how you accept it. Has to do a different job.
Sir?
It has to do a different job. It has to deal now with a population which no longer considers itself to be country bumpkin or hick. It has to deal mainly with the people who feel that they are sophisticated, that they know, that they've seen. They've seen everything from a transistor radio to a jet plane. very difficult to get over the same ideas in the same way. But we have to get over the same ideas.
It had to be the true idea, true principle.
For example, in the old days, peace meant an absence of war, didn't it? Peace.
Yeah, outside
An absence of war. Yeah, right. But it isn't anymore. There's an absence of war, but there's no peace. Or there's peace, but there's no absence of war. Okay? Thanks for your call.
Well, thank you very much. I want to say something else. I want to ask another question. Do you think we have to die?
Oh, yes.
We have to die?
Yes. Aren't we lucky?
Oh, no, I don't feel like we have to die.
Oh, I see. What do you feel might happen instead?
I feel like if after we come into reality, we have life eternal.
I see. In what form?
Is that true?
Well, if you will it so, dear, fine. Far be it from me to tell you you are wrong. But I believe, for example, that you are a human being. You are energy. You are matter. You are substance. And you don't go anywhere when you die. It's still here. It's still on Earth. Maybe it's part of a lamppost now. Maybe you were made into cement. Maybe you were a flower that grew. Maybe you're a human being again. I don't know. I'm willing to wait and find out.
It's a deep subject, huh?
I don't think I live forever. No, ma'am. But I don't mind. I think we're very lucky. We get the opportunity of living, being born, and dying. And not the slightest bit of afeard of it. Not the slightest bit.
All right, thank you very much.
Good night. Hollywood 1-9353, Michael Jackson, KHJ. The KHJ weather picture for tomorrow. Again, similar to the last couple of months. Low clouds, local fog, night and morning, but hazy sunshine, late morning and afternoon. Not much temperature change. The low for tonight, 58. The high for tomorrow, 75 or thereabouts. Currently, it's 62 degrees.
And now, here's Andy Williams.
Hey, how about it? Hey, gonna shout it. Go with the National Guard. For each battle recruit, there's a plan. In the Guard, you're an up to the minute man.
In every part of our country, the men of the National Guard, your friends and neighbors, are protecting the peace. Remember, national defense is everybody's business, and so is your National Guard.
Thank you. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I'd like, if I might, to state a few facts concerning Proposition 14 in the Rumford Act, which I think lead to the conclusion you've got to defeat 14. But basically, I think you've got to start with one fact, and that is that the Constitution of the State of California, in its preamble, and I think this has been used before. My wording may not be accurate, but it states that the right to acquire, possess, and sell property is an inalienable right of any California citizen.
What was that first word? Wasn't it acquire?
I believe acquire, yes. I may be incorrect on the wording there.
No, you're right.
At any rate, this, I think, it very effectively disposes of the argument that the Rumford Act itself is removing some right that the citizen had before. The fact that there were no laws to implement the basic right to acquire property doesn't mean that there was ever in existence a denial of that right. It simply means no one ever enforced the right. But the right always existed. Now, the Rumford Act itself, I am not particularly fond of. I think it could be improved greatly, but it was in committee for over a year. While it was passed at the end of the session, it couldn't possibly have reached the floor if the committee hadn't released it. Therefore, at least some members, the majority of the committee that was studying it, had to approve it.
True.
And of course, the majority of the California legislature approved it. But to me, the big important thing is that if Proposition 14 is passed, Rumford Act or no Rumford Act, according to the wording of the proposition, no legislation of any kind can ever be passed again on this subject. It's not an anti-Rumford Act. It's according to the wording, if you've read it, it states that no legislation.
But wait a minute, sir. Understand one thing. There could be a further constitutional amendment.
True.
It could be modified by another direct vote of the people at some future time.
But only if another constitutional amendment is passed. In which case, what is the point of passing this one if you're going to nullify it?
So in other words, are you saying, as I had intimated before, might be another idea to consider, rather than voting yea, you could, if you did vote nay, change the Rumford Fair Housing Law in the next session of the legislature.
I think most definitely. I think the Rumford Act is going in the direction it should. I think it is improperly worded in many instances, but nevertheless, I don't think the way to correct a bad law is to provide a very bad constitutional amendment. Incidentally, there are some interesting contradictions in 14 itself, which, for instance, if I think you're aware of the UNRRA
Yes.
fair housing law, which
Well, this will be affected too, of course.
only in part. According to the wording of this, for instance, a property owner can go to a real estate broker and say, I want you to sell my house, but not to a Jew or not to a Negro, or whoever he chooses to discriminate against. This will be legal, but it will not be legal for the real estate broker to discriminate, only for the property owner.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, this is actually a special interest law in itself, because the UNRRA law prohibits real estate brokers from discriminating, but nothing in Proposition 14 says anything about that.
It's going to bring up many confusing situations.
True, but the basic thing, I think, is twofold. First of all, either you believe that our country and our state was founded on the belief that all people have an equal right to acquire property for whatever reason, as long as they can afford it, or you don't. Granted that, then the only other argument is that you don't like the particular law, in which case the way to correct it is through the legislature, not through a absolutely mandatory state constitutional amendment. Because let's face it, if 14 passes, then it's highly unlikely that the same people that voted for 14 are going to next year nullify 14.
Thank you very much for your argument.
Thank you.
Good night. People usually use the 14th Amendment, Section 1 of the Constitution, to justify the argument for no on 14. It might be more pertinent, actually, to use the California Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, which, as the gentleman said, does use the word acquire. I don't think the 14th Amendment actually uses the word acquire. It talks about no state depriving any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, but it doesn't actually mention particularly the word acquisition or acquiring, and the California Constitution very certainly does. Had an interesting experience during the week gone by. As I mentioned, I was off for a week, and I hope you noticed it, but I was off for a week, and I had to get a suit to wear in the show that I was doing, and I had to get it at 4 hours' notice. So I went to Zachary Hall, and they altered beautifully a ready-made suit. When I say ready-made, they're hand-tailored. All the good suits at Zachary Hall are hand-tailored. But they did this in, I think, 2 hours flat, and did a very fine job. It needed considerable alteration to really look like a tailor-made suit. Zachary Hall. So I've now purchased 2 suits from them, and I recommend that you go there. Zachary Hall, where if you pay cash, or if you do as I do, use a Bank Americard, Zachary Hall offers you an unlimited choice of fine clothing. It's an entire half a block of the nation's most respected brands, and you choose without the pressure of a commission salesman, because they earn good money and they're not on commission, and without the nonsense of a fictitious comparative price. They have sharkskin suits at $49, special. They're not ordinary sharkskin suits, they're hand-tailored of excellent Italian woolens, $49. 6,000 pairs of wool worsted slacks, $11.75. They'll cuff them whilst you wait, do minor alterations whilst you wait. There's much more, too. They're open every day, daily from 9 to 9, Saturday from 9 to 6, Sunday from 10 to 5. Zachary Hall in the Miracle Mile at 5467 Wilshire Boulevard, 4 blocks west of La Brea. 5467 Wilshire Boulevard, 4 blocks west of La Brea. There's plenty of free parking. Hello.
Hello, Michael.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen Fact Magazine, the latest issue?
Not the latest one, but I know the work of Mr. Ginsberg fairly well. Why?
The front cover page, 1,189 psychiatrists say Goldwater is psychologically unfit to be president.
No, they did not, sir. He conducted a survey amongst that number of people, and a few hundred replied, and they did not all say that he was psychologically unfit.
There are few in the mix that say he's all right, but outstanding institutions like the New York Psychoanalytic Institute,
well, sir, can you tell me, sir, how psychiatrists can possibly claim to be able to judge the sanity or the skill or the ability of a man without being with him in person for one moment? I say they need their heads read.
Well, it shows the difference between psychiatrists. I have a very low opinion of them anyway, but...
I know. Would you hold while the news is on, so I have to join the network right now, and we'll pick this up from there, okay?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. This is KHJ AM and FM, a service of RKO General in Los Angeles. I'm Michael Jackson, 8:30.
This